You don't forget the moment your life falls apart, especially not when it comes in 1080p, with perfect lighting and a watermark from your own media team. It started with a Slack ping from Kelsey in marketing. "Hey, Alina, is this real?" No context, just a link. I clicked it. No hesitation, no suspicion, because why would there be? I was a project manager at one of the top AI firms in the city. I built products, delivered them on time, and kept egos from colliding mid-flight. I'd never had so much as a single HR warning in a decade of work. The video opened with my face. Not similar. Mine. My voice. My cadence. Sitting in what looked like our 7th floor conference room. My mouth moved, forming words I had never said. I made sure the contracts landed with them. The kickbacks came quarterly, untraceable. Then a small, satisfied smile. A nod. Fade out. My coffee went cold in my hand. By the time I looked up, Slack had gone quiet, like everyone in the building was holding their breath. And then the second ping came, this time from HR. "Alina, could you step into Conference B? Bring your badge." The hallway to Conference B never felt long until that moment. People looked away as I passed, like eye contact might make them complicit. The glass walls made everything feel public, transparent, exposed. Inside, Carolyn Reed from Communications sat with her legs crossed, a folder resting neatly in her lap. Beside her, a junior HR rep whose name I didn't know offered a smile too tight to be sincere. "Alina," Carolyn said, "thanks for coming." No legal, no compliance, just PR. That's when I knew this wasn't about truth. It was about optics. They handed me a letter on thick, creamy paper. Suspension pending investigation. Effective immediately. Do not access company systems. Do not contact team members. And the kicker, please sign the NDA enclosed for the good of all parties. A cardboard box waited on the table beside me. I was meant to fill it with my desk life. My photos, my dried up pens, the award from last quarter. But I didn't move. My hands stayed in my lap. I didn't say those words. I finally managed. "That's not my voice." Carolyn offered a sympathetic smile, the kind that always precedes a power play. "Alina, I understand this is upsetting, but we have to respond appropriately to what's surfaced." "You mean to what's been manufactured?" I said. My voice shook, not with fear, with fury trying to stay civilized. The HR rep cleared her throat. "We can't comment further until the review concludes, but we recommend you comply with the NDA process." They wanted silence, compliance, an easy exit. I didn't give them either. I picked up the letter, folded it, walked out without touching the box. On my way to the elevator, someone whispered my name. I didn't turn. That afternoon, I went home to my apartment. 612 square feet of order and routine. Daniel, my fiancé, met me at the door. I hadn't even told him yet. "Hey," he said, already looking at his phone. "Saw some stuff online. What's going on?" I told him the basics. Not the deep fake, just the video, the reaction, the leave. His brows pulled together like he was trying to calculate a safe response. "Okay," he said after a moment. I think we should take a beat, until this clears up." "A beat?" I repeated. "You mean space?" He nodded. "It's a lot. For both of us." I packed a weekend bag. He didn't stop me, didn't even ask where I'd go, just said, "Text me when you're settled." So I did what I always did when I didn't know what to do. I went to the community center. Thursday nights were for the media literacy workshops I ran for women starting over, refugees, survivors, single moms who couldn't afford to believe every headline they read. I'd taught them how to verify sources, how to trace image origins, how to protect their digital identities. And now I was the cautionary tale. The director met me at the front door with a tight expression. "Alina," she said gently, "maybe take this week off, just until things settle. But it's just best for everyone," she said, eyes darting toward the glass hallway behind her. I nodded, left, walked through the city like I didn't recognize its streets. When I got back to my apartment, I sat on the couch with the letter in my lap, and that's when I noticed it. The video still open on my laptop, paused at second 23. A shimmer, almost nothing, in the corner of the frame, a tint to the shadows, a texture to the skin tone that wasn't natural, not standard manipulation, but not unfamiliar either. I zoomed in. There it was, buried in the grading, a specific LUT profile our media team used, company-specific, proprietary. Someone used our own tools to fabricate my downfall. Suddenly, the silence wasn't just punishment. It was strategy. I wasn't fired. I was being erased, precisely, methodically. And someone thought I wouldn't notice. They were wrong. The NDA sat on top of the cardboard box like a lid on a coffin. Thick paper, legalese so dense it felt like a wall of fog. By signing below, the party agrees to refrain from all public and private commentary on the matter in perpetuity. Perpetuity. Not just for now. Forever. I didn't sign it. I signed only the receipt of documents, a subtle legal distinction. Enough to say yes, I got it, but not yes. I agreed to anything inside it. The junior HR rep didn't catch the difference. Carolyn did. Her gaze lingered on the unsigned line, but she didn't push. The elevator ride down from the 15th floor felt like descending through static. My reflection stared back at me from the mirrored walls, pale, frozen, blurred around the edges like I wasn't fully rendered. I avoided my own eyes. I didn't want to see the version of myself who'd just been disappeared. At floor 5, the elevator dinged and stopped. The doors opened, and in stepped Rosa. She didn't smile, didn't flinch, just gave me a quiet nod before facing forward, hands folded around a leather folio, as if she took elevators down from floors of fire every day. Rosa Monroe, board member, philanthropist, woman of few wasted movements. She'd survived her own scandal, one so old most people had forgotten the details, but not the fallout. Whispers of embezzlement. A retraction buried on page 9. She'd vanished for 3 years, then returned, not louder, just sharper. "Quite the morning," she said, eyes on the elevator doors. "You could say that," I replied. "A beat of silence." "They're offering silence as safety," she said. "It isn't." The elevator dinged again. "Take care, Alina," Rosa said, stepping out. The doors closed before I could ask what she meant. Or maybe that was all she meant. By the time I got home, I still hadn't touched the box. It sat in the trunk of my car like something radioactive. I booted up my laptop, holding my breath until the system still let me in. I had 30 seconds, maybe less. Straight to the video file. I didn't just play it, I exported the metadata. Every file has a shadow, a hidden fingerprint, timestamps, color grades, processing trails, tool versions. And there it was, tucked into the XMP data. A LUT signature. LUT stands for lookup table, a fancy term for color grading recipes, like Instagram filters but corporate grade. This one? Ours. Specifically, a LUT used by our media team for internal brand videos. Not public tools, not open source. Unique to our editing suite. Someone had taken my face, my voice, and layered them with a lie, and then dressed it up with our in-house style. That meant access, credentials, time. This wasn't some outsider vendetta. It was internal. I leaned back in my chair, fingers resting lightly on the keyboard, and stared at the waveform of my faked voice. I sounded calm, composed, almost proud. I remembered the last all-hands meeting, the way Carolyn talked about controlling the narrative. A single frame can redefine truth, she'd said. The frame is everything. She'd meant it as a media strategy, but now it sounded like doctrine. The box from HR sat unopened beside my door. I walked over, flipped the flaps, and looked inside. It was too light. A half-used notepad, a USB drive, a stress ball in the shape of a light bulb. Nothing weighty enough to represent 6 years of work. No dignity, just paper and plastic. I took the NDA and slid it underneath the box, then kicked the whole thing under my bed. Let them wonder if I signed it. I didn't post a thing online. No vague tweets. No, some of you know what I'm going through. That would have made it about noise. And noise is what they wanted. Instead, I opened a new tab, dug into old hackathon files, and found a name I hadn't thought about in 2 years. Leah Cho. Back then, she was the kind of engineer who hated LinkedIn and refused to wear a name badge. She built things that worked even if they looked ugly. I'd approved a grant for one of her projects, a tamper-evident watermark system. It didn't win, but it stuck with me. I found her new portfolio site. Still raw, still cluttered, but buried in the footer, a PGP key and a single sentence. We don't win arguments, we demonstrate. Perfect. I drafted a message. Leah, it's Alina from Nova. I need your help. Someone used our own tools to deepfake me. I can prove it, but I don't want a war. I want precision. You in? I stared at the cursor for a long moment before hitting send. The reply came less than 5 minutes later. Show me what you've got. No promises. Just science. I shut the laptop. For the first time in 36 hours, I breathed like I meant it. They wanted me quiet. Gone. But if they built a frame to ruin me, I could build a mirror and make them see exactly what they'd done. The morning after Rosa's words, I woke to the pale blue of my apartment walls and the quiet hum of a computer that hadn't been turned off all night. My browser still displayed the metadata from the fake video, a matrix of codes and timestamps that felt colder than betrayal itself. Somewhere in that string of digits I knew was the trail I needed. People think digital lies are clever. They're not. Every manipulation leaves fingerprints, little mismatched clues hiding in the details, a color slightly too warm, a frame that doesn't line up with how light actually bounces off skin, a tool version that doesn't match the public release. The trick is knowing how to listen when the pixels whisper. I brewed coffee strong enough to melt paint and opened the video again. This time, I paused at second 23, the moment where my fake self smiled. There, frozen in mid-expression, was something odd. A repeating pattern in the background, like a faint pulse behind the image. I exported that single frame and ran a hash check, a simple way of creating a digital ID for that image. If even one pixel was changed, the hash number would shift completely. Think of it like a DNA test for files. The hash that came up was familiar, too familiar. I searched it through my old work folder and found a match inside a project we'd done 6 months ago, an internal promotional video. Same pattern, same fingerprint. That meant the fake video had been processed through the company's private video system. The system wasn't public. Only authorized editors could touch it. Someone had used company equipment to build my downfall. I could have marched straight to HR, but that would have been like handing the fox the key to the henhouse. They'd file a follow-up investigation and quietly sweep it into the corner labeled reputation risk. I'd seen them do it before to other employees, so instead, I did something that felt more dangerous. I stopped reacting. I didn't argue on social media. Didn't send late-night clarifications to old coworkers who might still believe in me. The hardest part was silence, but Rosa had been right. The opposite of screaming isn't surrender, it's strategy. That night, I cleared my kitchen table and turned it into a war room. Post-its lined the surface, dates, tools, patterns, color codes. The more I wrote, the calmer I became. Every good project I'd ever managed had started the same way: chaos, followed by order. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Leah. "We don't have to argue," I wrote. "We can demonstrate." Her reply came seconds later. "Send me everything. I'll bring the math." When I met Leah again, it was over video call. Her hair was a wild halo of curls, her voice steady, curious, the same as the night she'd pitched her prototype at that hackathon. She didn't bother with sympathy, which I appreciated. "Okay," she said, leaning toward the camera. "You're saying this video of you was processed with your company's own editing tools?" "Yes. There's a hidden color profile inside it, a kind of digital recipe we use for branding." "And you have proof?" I nodded and sent her the metadata file. She whistled low. "Damn, that's deliberate. You know what you're holding, right?" "A career killer." "No," she said. "A blueprint." She explained her idea, a new kind of detection tool that didn't claim to know what was real or fake, but showed where something had been changed. "Think of it like highlighting fingerprints on glass," she said. "We won't tell people what to believe. We'll just show them what's been touched." I felt something inside me click into place. I'd spent years managing projects that made other people rich. This time, the product would protect me, and everyone else who could be destroyed by a lie that moved faster than truth. We spent the next 2 weeks building what she called Mirror.ai. The name wasn't poetic, it was literal. "They framed you," she said one night while our screens glowed with code. "You're just giving them the mirror." I handled data organization, documentation, and system flow, the kind of structure engineers hate and projects can't live without. Leah handled the algorithms. She explained things in plain language so I could keep up. "We'll start with ELA, error level analysis," she said. Basically, it checks how evenly the picture was compressed. Real videos have consistent texture. Fake ones are patchy, like paint drying unevenly. Next, she added a check for LUT patterns, the color recipe that had exposed my company's fingerprint. If we can teach the tool to recognize that color map, we can trace who touched a video, not just how. Then came reflection physics. "Light doesn't lie," she said. "When someone fakes a scene, they forget how reflections behave. Screens, glasses, even eyeballs. They all reflect light differently. We can measure that." We worked in silence most nights, trading files and black coffee, our conversations clipped and precise. Each breakthrough felt like a heartbeat. By the time the prototype ran its first full analysis, dawn was breaking outside my window. The result: Mirror.ai flagged my fake video with 3 distinct warnings, all traceable to the company's media department. Not proof for court yet, but enough to point the spotlight in the right direction. Rosa called that afternoon. "I heard you're busy," she said. "Building something." "Good. Don't fight the fire. Move the audience to the fireproof room." I didn't fully understand what she meant until later, but the tone in her voice told me this wasn't advice. It was strategy disguised as kindness. That night, I slid the NDA, the one I'd refused to sign, under the bed and opened a clean document on my laptop. The first line I wrote wasn't technical. It was simple. They want silence. We'll answer with evidence. For the first time since the fake appeared, I felt something close to peace. Revenge wasn't about shouting anymore. It was about precision, the kind that leaves no fingerprints except theirs. Mirror.ai didn't start in a lab. It started on a whiteboard smudged with coffee fingerprints and too many half-erased equations in a studio above a second-hand vinyl shop Leah rented for cheap. The floors creaked like a guilty conscience. The air smelled faintly of solder and old carpet glue. It was perfect. I brought Chinese takeout and a stack of folders. Leah brought her brain and an ancient ThinkPad covered in stickers that said things like trust code, not vibes. We worked in quiet bursts. She talked with her hands, sketching diagrams with dry erase markers in a speed only caffeine could explain. I organized files and recorded every step in meticulous logs. We weren't just building a prototype. We were building a timeline, a digital chain of custody. Everything had to be traceable. What we're doing, Leah said between bites of dumplings, is creating a truth translator. We're not saying what's real. We're showing what's been messed with. She outlined our 4 pillars, breaking them down in terms even a bored intern could understand. First, ELA, error level analysis. Every time a video is saved or edited, it compresses the image. It's like painting over a wall. Real scenes dry evenly. But if someone edits just one part, that patch dries differently. ELA spots those wet patches. She showed me an image heat map, dark where the pixels were untouched, red where someone had tampered. The fake video of me lit up like a wound. Second, LUT and color profiles. LUTs, lookup tables, are basically color recipes. Every company has their own flavor for video. If we find a signature sauce where it doesn't belong, we know someone's been cooking where they shouldn't. In my case, our company's visual seasoning, our custom LUT, showed up in the fake video. It was like finding a company watermark in a crime scene. Third, reflection and light physics. This is where fakers always mess up, she said. Light obeys physics. Reflections in glasses, on windows, on shiny surfaces. If the angles don't match up, it's fake. She rewound the fake video and pointed to the corner monitor. Right there. That screen should reflect your face. Instead, it shows nothing. A real camera would have caught you in it. My fake self, center frame, had no reflection, like a vampire. Subtle, but damning. Fourth, upload logs. Every time a file's uploaded to a system, it leaves a trace, date, time, device ID. If we can cross-check when and where a video was born, we can expose the origin. She explained that many systems use something called SSO, single sign-on, basically a company ID badge for online tools. If we get the original file from a source inside, we can check whose badge uploaded it. I stared at the wall of data we'd compiled, heat maps, color charts, upload trails. Each one felt like a piece of my name being pulled from the fire. Not absolution, but evidence. I still don't get one thing, I said. Why not just go public now? Leah didn't look up from the keyboard. Because right now, people don't care. You post this on Twitter, it's just another woman yelling into the algorithm. I hated how right she was. That night, Rosa called again. She didn't ask how I was. She asked what our timeline looked like. Soon, I told her. Then don't rush. You don't need fire. You need proof that doesn't burn away when the wind shifts. She paused. Build the room where the fire can't touch you, and then walk them into it. 2 days later, I sent the first clean demo file to Nora, the journalist who once covered our product launch with surgical precision. She wasn't a headline chaser. She cared about systems, not scandals. The video I sent her wasn't mine. It was a random deepfake that had gone viral last month. Mirror.ai flagged it with a quiet, color-coded overlay showing every manipulation, audio mismatch, lighting inconsistencies, unregistered upload data. It didn't scream, it simply showed. She replied in under an hour. "This isn't vaporware, it's forensic. You built a microscope for lies." She asked what our next move was. I told her, a live demo, on a real stage, with my fake video. Let them see it in the same room that turned its back on me. She didn't type for a moment. Then, "Let me know when you're ready, and be bulletproof." On the desk beside me sat a cheap picture frame I'd grabbed from the dollar store to remind myself of something. Inside it was the stock photo that came with it, a smiling family in sweaters on a beach I'd never seen. I hadn't replaced the picture. That felt symbolic. We weren't done, but we had proof. Real, measurable proof. Enough to hold up in a boardroom. Enough to scare anyone who thought they'd buried me under a headline. I leaned back in my chair, eyes gritty from no sleep, and whispered it out loud like a vow. You tried to control the frame, but we just built the mirror. The invitation arrived like a mistake. A glossy email from the comms team at Nova, addressed to an old catch-all account I hadn't deactivated yet. Join us for a gala evening celebrating digital integrity in the age of AI. I reread the sender. Carolyn Reed. It didn't even register that I was still on the invite list. Or maybe they just assumed I'd never show my face again. I clicked RSVP. Not as Alina Nadir, that name was still radioactive in their building, but as a guest from Mirror.ai, listed as Data Research Consultant. No photo, no LinkedIn, just a name and a neutral contact email. 20 minutes later, I got a confirmation. Location: the LeClaire Ballroom, uptown. Dress code: formal. Agenda: cocktails. Panel discussion. Product showcase. Carolyn had even included a section inviting startups to apply for 5-minute lightning demos to showcase technologies advancing truth and transparency in media. The irony was too perfect to ignore. I sent in a request to present. I didn't use my fake video. I used a random clip, a harmless one, digitally altered with company editing software. In it, a speaker's tie was subtly changed color mid-sentence, and the audio had been softened to manipulate tone. The attached pitch read, Mirror.ai, a deepfake diagnostic tool, not to decide truth, but to show interference, like highlighting brushstrokes on a fake painting. We'll demo a clean case, nothing political, no drama, just the method. I kept it bland, scientific. Professional. 2 days later, the approval came through. "Looking forward to your contribution to our celebration of integrity," Carolyn wrote. Leah cackled when I told her. "They gave you the mic at your own execution," she said. "They think you're no one, or they think you're bluffing." "They think I'm gone," I said. "Let's not correct them yet." Over the next week, we refined the Mirror.ai demo down to exactly 4 minutes and 55 seconds. No buzzwords, no soapboxing, just a clean scan and a slow reveal. First, the playback of the fake video, then the overlay. Layer 1, compression heat map, using ELA, error level analysis. The image darkened and bloomed red around the manipulated zones. Not an opinion, just a visual flag where digital fingerprints didn't match. Layer 2, color mismatch. Our tool flagged the presence of Nova's custom color filter. Think of it like seasoning that only one kitchen uses. That specific shade? That was our company's house recipe, and it had no business being on this unrelated file. Layer 3, light physics. A zoom in to the screen behind the subject. In real life, that monitor should reflect the speaker's shoulder. In the video, no reflection. Faked videos often forget how mirrors work. Physics doesn't. Layer 4, upload trail. We'd embedded a dummy log for the demo, a made-up employee ID tied to a fake upload timestamp. The point was to show what our tool could do, not make accusations, yet. We tested it across 3 machines, ran it offline, and packed it on a drive that required no external connection. The demo was self-contained. No downloads, no patching, no last-minute dependencies. Rosa called the night before the gala. "Do you know what happens when you walk into a room that tried to erase you?" "I don't flinch," I said. She paused. "Good. Because the only thing harder than telling the truth is showing it so clearly they can't look away." The next evening, I wore black. Not dramatic, not defiant. Just simple. I didn't want the stage. I wanted the silence after it. The LeClaire ballroom glittered like the inside of a diamond. White linens, gold-rimmed glasses, string quartet in the corner. Familiar faces mingled near the risotto station. Developers I'd trained, interns I'd mentored, managers who hadn't replied to my messages. I stood alone in the side hallway near the AV booth, watching my file load into their system. One of the techs frowned. "This is not a company demo?" "No," I said, flashing the Mirror.ai guest badge. "External partner. It's a showcase of forensic techniques, educational only." He hesitated, then shrugged. "Runs clean. No red flags." That meant their antivirus scanner didn't detect any risks. He was looking for malware, not meaning. Owen, the CEO, passed by me on the way to the main stage, not recognizing me, or pretending not to. "Integrity is an invitation," he announced as he took the mic. "Not just to believe, but to verify." I almost smiled. They were about to verify something all right. I stepped behind the curtain stage left, holding the remote clicker like a scalpel. As the AV team tested the file in rehearsal, the screen filled with the video, the fake, playing like a memory someone wished was true. Then our overlay lit up one by one. Red zones on the tie, color mismatch in the shadows, physics break in the screen reflection, fake ID upload trace blinking beneath the frame. The tech next to me said, "Damn, that's surgical." "It's just process," I said. But what I didn't say, not yet, was that tomorrow, the process would point not to a generic test file. It would point to my own face, and it would reflect the one who made it. Gala night shimmered like a lie dressed for prom. The LeClaire ballroom was packed. 600 guests in suits and cocktail gowns, sipping imported wine under chandeliers meant to distract you from anything true. Nova's PR machine had outdone itself. The stage was flanked by digital banners reading "Integrity in Action." The irony tasted metallic. I stood backstage, half-shadowed, running through the demo script with Leah one last time. "You ready?" she asked, not looking up from her laptop. "I'm not here to perform," I said. "Just to reveal." She nodded, then reached into her bag and handed me something. A small handheld mirror. "Keep it in your pocket," she said. "Remind yourself who you're doing this for." Carolyn was out front, schmoozing by the champagne table. I watched her laugh, loud, polished, the kind that fills a room without ever touching it. She looked relaxed. Too relaxed. "Think she suspects?" I asked Leah. "Nope. She approved the file. Probably didn't even watch it all the way through." She hadn't. The final video wasn't the same as the test demo. We'd made one last edit, a quiet bomb hidden in plain sight. The file would play in layers. First, it would show the fake as is. No alerts, no warning. Then, 5 seconds in, Mirror.ai would activate. Layer 1, the heat map. The tool would highlight patches of the image that had been altered. This isn't guesswork. It's based on compression levels. In real videos, every part of the image gets saved and squeezed the same way. But edited parts get re-squeezed, and the tool detects those inconsistencies, like wet paint on a dry wall. Layer 2, the color trace. The overlay would reveal the exact color profile, the visual recipe, of Nova's internal video system. It's like finding the same spice in two dishes and realizing they came from the same kitchen. That color code doesn't belong in an external file. Layer 3, the reflection analysis. This was the visual hook. A zoom into the screen in the corner of the frame. Reflections, unlike pixels, obey physics. If someone's standing in front of a monitor, you should see them reflected. But in the fake, there was no reflection of the person recording. That's unnatural. Wrong. Layer 4, the upload trail. At the very end, the screen would flash a clean tag, a string of letters and numbers representing a company login, what tech people call an SSO ID, single sign-on. Think of it like a digital badge swipe that records who accessed a system and when. That ID would belong to Carolyn Reed. Will the system flag the demo before it plays? I asked. No, Leah said. We made the changes invisible to their scanners. Everything runs locally, no internet access required. It's like bringing your own projector. A staffer in a headset appeared from behind the curtain. You're up in 5. I nodded. Across the ballroom, Daniel sat in the 3rd row, stiff in a navy suit. His eyes scanned the room but never landed on me. Maybe he thought I wouldn't come. Maybe he hoped I wouldn't. Carolyn walked past the AV booth, heels clicking, smile fixed. The screen behind her showed a placeholder title card, Mirror AI, a tool for seeing what videos hide. Some guests murmured, curious. Others sipped their drinks, indifferent. Owen took the stage again, basking in applause. His voice carried that same rehearsed warmth, the one he used in crisis briefings and product launches. Tonight, he said, we celebrate the technologies that guard our collective truth. He gestured to the big screen behind him. One such technology comes from a young team building something we think might matter. Let's welcome Mirror.ai. My name wasn't mentioned. My face wasn't in the program, but I stepped out anyway. All eyes turned. I didn't flinch. I wore no label, just black slacks, a black blazer, and a single badge that read, Guest Mirror.ai. I clicked the remote. The video began, a generic speaker in front of a screen, discussing product feedback. His voice smooth. His tie subtly shifting color between cuts. Harmless, polished. Then, 10 seconds in, the screen began to bloom. Mirror.ai's first layer kicked in. The tie lit up, deep red blotches tracing the inconsistent compression where the video had been edited. The second layer appeared, color mapping. The screen flashed a soft, translucent yellow, then darkened at the edges. A signature Nova loot, lookup table, identified in a place it shouldn't be. Nova's video software had touched this file, despite it being external. The third layer zoomed into the monitor behind the speaker. The reflection wasn't just missing, it was wrong. The lighting direction clashed with physics. No reflection of the camera person, no ambient glare, just a dead zone. Finally, the last layer loaded. A clean white bar along the bottom. First upload, internal device. SSO ID, K read, timestamp, UO2.17 a.m. The ballroom went very still. From where I stood, I watched Carolyn freeze, not dramatically, not visibly shaken, but still in that very specific way people get when their mind is sprinting, but their body hasn't caught up. Rosa, seated near the back, didn't clap, didn't smile. She simply folded her hands, watching the crowd watch me. I clicked once more. The screen faded to black. The words appeared. We don't guess. We detect. Mirror.ai. I bowed my head slightly and stepped away from the mic. Behind me, the house lights dimmed. The guests weren't murmuring now. They were listening. And Carolyn, who had framed me with such precision, had just seen her own reflection, pixel by pixel. You'd think the room would explode. That the moment Carolyn's ID flashed on the screen, clean, quiet, undeniable, people would stand up, gasp, demand answers. But that's not what happened. Instead, silence fell like a curtain. No one moved. No one even breathed. 600 people sat in gold chivalry chairs, cocktail napkins limp in their fingers, watching the screen fade to black. The last words still glowing. We don't guess. We detect. Daniel sat frozen, one hand halfway to his mouth. His lips parted slightly, like he meant to say something but couldn't. Carolyn was a statue by the AV booth. She didn't bolt. She didn't blink. She just stared at the floor like it might open up and spare her the aftermath. Owen, ever the showman, stepped back on stage too quickly. His smile was late to fade. You could almost hear the gears in his brain grind as he tried to recalibrate. Well, he said, clearing his throat, that was thought-provoking. Rosa stood. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Security, she said calmly. Please escort Ms. Reed to the anteroom. We'll handle this with dignity. 2 security leads, not bulky rent-a-guards, but quiet professionals in dark suits, approached Carolyn with measured steps. No manhandling, no accusations, just presence. Carolyn didn't argue. She walked with them, stiff and upright, like a ship moving through ice. Owen tried to continue, fumbling through his cue cards, but the script had already left the room. No one cared about the next speaker. No one was sipping anymore. People whispered. Eyes flicked toward their phones. Guests began checking emails, quietly muttering things like, "Was that real?" and "Did you see the timestamp?" A whisper rose from one of the engineering VPs near the back. She used her own login. How arrogant do you have to be? Leah leaned against the curtain beside me, arms crossed, watching it all unfold with the calm of a surgeon post-operation. She'll blame a rogue employee, she said. She can't, I replied. The SSO ID ties to her account. 2-factor authentication confirmed the device. That wasn't jargon, just basic security. SSO, single sign-on, meant her personal credentials were used. The system asked for her password and a confirmation from her phone or email. She couldn't claim she wasn't there. Nora, seated 3 rows from the front, pulled out her tablet. She wasn't typing quotes or grabbing sound bites. She was charting flow, metadata, reflection physics, company LUT, all the layers we'd explained. She wasn't chasing clicks. She was archiving proof. The ballroom's chandelier glittered with 1,000 tiny reflections, each one a phone camera. Everyone had recorded it. The reveal wasn't just in the room now, it was everywhere. That was the point. Backstage, the AV technician, the same one who loaded our file, approached me with wide eyes. That was real, wasn't it? The data, I mean. Yes. He swallowed. Holy hell. Integrity welcomes scrutiny, I said, repeating Owen's line. He almost smiled. 20 minutes later, the board met in the green room. The public didn't see it. No press, no phones. Just Rosa, Owen, a legal advisor, and 2 external observers from compliance. They didn't speak for long. The head of security entered with a final report. His voice was low, but Rosa asked him to read it aloud for the record. SSO IDK Reed accessed the internal video editing system at 2:17 a.m. 6 weeks ago. The device used was registered to her office desktop. IP address logs confirm the physical location was Nova HQ. Owen turned pale. Not in fear, in shame. "We've initiated an independent audit," he said stiffly. "Effective immediately, Ms. Reed is placed on leave. Our comms team will issue a preliminary statement tonight." Rosa said nothing until they were done. Then she stepped forward and took the microphone from the technician. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't even long. "We believed the frame, but tonight we saw the mirror, and we choose to correct the frame, not for headlines, but for process. Watch what we do next. No dramatics, just calm certainty." The press release went out within the hour. Nova confirms suspension of Communications Director Carolyn Reed, pending investigation into unauthorized media manipulation. It didn't name me. It didn't need to. The footage was already online, going viral faster than Carolyn's damage control team could tweet. One tech blog posted a split screen, the fake video on the left, and our mirror.ai scan on the right. They called it the software that caught the lie in the act. But none of that mattered to me as much as what happened next. I walked out of the ballroom through the service hallway. Not the grand marble steps, not the velvet-draped exit. The kitchen corridor was warm with the scent of citrus cleaner and roasted garlic. A dishwasher nodded to me. I nodded back. Outside, I stepped into the night air and let it hit my lungs in full. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel hunted. I felt whole. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the mirror Leah had given me, and opened it. My reflection was still there, unbroken. Carolyn didn't run. That surprised everyone. When the room turned, when the screen glowed with her digital fingerprint, most expected her to vanish behind some lawyer's back or PR-crafted illness. But she didn't. She stood. She walked. And when the door to the anteroom closed behind her, she sat in silence while 2 compliance officers took out their tablets and began logging everything. No shouting, no spin, just a process. She looked like someone waiting for the floor to crack. In that small room off the ballroom, bare walls, low light, a stack of unused place cards on the counter, a different kind of judgment began. The security lead started with the basics. "We confirm the upload of the doctored video was performed through a device registered to your user ID under Nova's single sign-on system." Simple terms. She logged into her work system using her username and password. The company had software that tracks logins, and she authenticated it with a second step, either a phone, a code, or email. That chain proved she, and only she, could have accessed it at that time. She didn't deny it. She just asked, "Who else has seen the scan?" "Everyone," Rosa answered from across the room. That shut down any attempt at plausible deniability. The damage was already done. Mirror.ai hadn't just exposed the fake. It had shown the method. Publicly, cleanly, without drama. Nova issued its first internal memo within an hour. Subject: transparency measures and immediate action. Key points: Carolyn Reed placed on indefinite leave pending a third-party audit. All media files touched by internal tools over the past year to be reviewed. Internal Ethics Committee to oversee review of communication and compliance protocols. Nova's public support of Mirror.ai's process. They didn't frame it as a scandal. They framed it as reform. That was Owen's specialty, writing a narrative he didn't start. Meanwhile, Nora posted her own thread. Not a hot take, not a smear, just a technical breakdown of the Mirror.ai process. Her title, What Truth Looks Like When It's Measurable. She laid it out step by step. 1. Error Level Analysis, ELA. Showed how parts of the video were compressed at different rates. That's a clue something was edited after the fact. 2. Color Profile Scan. identified Nova's unique video editing filter applied to the file, like finding the same brand of ink on a ransom note and a company printer. 3. Reflection physics. Detected the absence of expected reflections. A digital mirror in the background proved the scene was staged. 4. Upload credentials. Traced the original file to Carolyn's account via internal login logs. A digital signature. No way to fake it. The post went viral not because it was juicy, but because it was educational. People were tired of outrage. Mirror.ai gave them evidence. The next day, Mirror.ai's website received over 3 million hits. Servers buckled. Leah grinned and muttered something about needing to finally hire a back-end engineer. That night, Rosa hosted a private meeting in her downtown office. No fanfare, just the people who needed to be there, myself, Leah, Nora, and a quiet woman in glasses named Rena, introduced only as oversight. "This doesn't end with Carolyn," Rosa said. "No," I agreed. "But it started with her." Rosa nodded, then turned to Rena. "We want to set the terms now. If Mirror.ai becomes public, it won't be a weapon. No selling access to bad actors, no licensing to governments. We want a transparency framework." Rena simply said, "Draft it." That's when I realized Rosa wasn't just protecting me. She was building a future in the space I'd just carved open. Leah leaned back in her chair. "So what happens to Carolyn?" "She'll face internal disciplinary review. We'll publish the audit," Rosa said. "Quietly. We won't gloat. That's not how we win." And we didn't. There were no press conferences, no late-night apologies on TV. Carolyn didn't tweet a Notes app confession. She left quietly, her resignation buried in a board memo about organizational restructuring. But the mirror stayed. It lived in the process, in the files, in the scan that now sat archived in Nova's own transparency portal. I received an email from Owen the next week. It wasn't an apology, it was an offer. "Alina, Mirror.ai is exceptional. We believe in it. The board would like to explore formal partnership options." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded it to Rosa with one line. "They're still trying to own the frame." Her reply was short. "Then keep the mirror." Later that week, I met with the community center director over coffee, the same one who'd once gently asked me not to come back. She looked embarrassed, apologetic, but I stopped her. "I'm not here for closure," I said. "I'm here to offer something." I pitched a workshop, simple, free, titled "How to Spot Manipulated Media in 5 Steps." She didn't even hesitate. "I'll print the flyers," she said. As I left, she handed me a small cardboard box. "These were in your old locker." Inside were a few odds and ends, my badge, a few sticky notes, and a cheap silver picture frame. Later that night, I opened it at home and printed one simple sentence to place inside. "Truth doesn't need to shout. It needs to be shown. Revenge is loud. Justice is quiet." I didn't post a victory thread. I didn't show up at Nova's headquarters demanding a press conference. I didn't even write a Medium article titled "How I Took Down the Machine That Tried to Bury Me." Instead, I went back to the community center, the one where I used to volunteer before the video, before the glances, the polite cancellations, the quiet way the world steps away from a woman branded dishonest. That place had always been more real to me than any boardroom. They gave me room 4, the small one near the back, with the flickering fluorescent light and the smell of whiteboard markers. I brought my laptop and a borrowed projector. The workshop was titled "How to Spot Manipulated Media in 5 Checks." 5 women showed up the first week. A teenager who'd seen her best friend targeted with a fake Snapchat. A woman whose landlord used edited security footage to try to evict her. A grandmother who just wanted to know if that pastor screaming on YouTube was real. We kept it simple. No buzzwords. Check 1. Watch the light. Light obeys physics, I explained. If a face is lit from the left, but the shadow falls to the right, something's wrong. We looked at real examples. Deepfakes often forget how shadows work, like trying to glue light in the wrong place. Check 2. Listen for the edits. Audio is harder to fake than video, I said. People miss the tone, the rhythm, the breath. We played clips. I taught them to listen not just to words, but to space. The silence between sounds, which fakes often get wrong. Check 3. Look for repetition. If a background loops, or if someone's hand resets in the same position every few seconds, it's not a glitch, it's a fake. I showed them how to pause and scrub video slowly, not to catch liars, but to catch laziness. Most fakes are made in a rush. Check 4. Zoom in on the details. Check reflections. In mirrors, glasses, windows, real reflections line up. Fakes forget. We looked at an influencer video where the person's sunglasses showed no camera at all. A missing reflection is like a missing footprint. Check 5. Check the upload trail. If you can, look at where the video came from. Who uploaded it first? When? If it's a file someone sent you, check the metadata. I explained that metadata is like a digital business card attached to a file. It can include the date, the editing tool, and even the device ID. They took notes. They asked questions. And when they left, they weren't angry. They were prepared. Mirror.ai wasn't just a tool now. It was a method. Back at the temporary office Leah and I shared, a borrowed co-working space with uneven chairs and a printer that jammed if you looked at it wrong, we began planning the next phase, the public version. Rosa helped us form an advisory board. All women, all people who had once been the subject of someone else's narrative. No investors with slogans, no founders with hero complexes, just people who wanted clarity without spectacle. We wrote what we called the Transparency Pledge, a document we put on the homepage. It read, Mirror.ai will never tell you what to believe. It will only show you what's been touched. We believe people deserve facts, not spin. We outlined what Mirror.ai does and doesn't do. It shows edits, not intentions. It highlights manipulation, not motives. It exposes tampering, not context. We even added a public log of every scan request and review. No names, just numbers. A digital receipt of every time truth got measured. When we launched, we didn't do a media blitz. We posted one simple video, side-by-side clips of the original fake of me and the Mirror.ai breakdown. No music, no tears, just data. The screen blinked with overlays, compression hot zones, red splotches showing the altered segments. Company color filter detected. Nova's custom visual fingerprint. No reflection match. Physics violated in a monitor's glass. Upload credentials traced. User login at 2:17 a.m. from a Nova desktop. The last frame simply read, Truth isn't loud, it's precise. Then, Mirror.ai. See what videos hide. It didn't go viral like a scandal. It grew, slow, steady, like people whispering to each other at the edges of noise. The kind of truth that doesn't ask for applause. 2 weeks after launch, I opened an email from Daniel. Subject, You didn't fight. You built. I thought you disappeared, but you built a truth machine. I didn't know how to stand by you. I know now that's on me. If there's space to talk, I'd like to. I stared at the screen a long time. Then I clicked archive, not delete. Just file it away, quietly, like a photo of someone I used to know. Leah and I printed the Transparency Pledge and framed it with the same dollar store frame we joked about during the first prototype. We hung it on the wall above the new server tower, the one we'd built from used parts, clean code, and the ashes of a lie. The first thing you see when you walk into the Mirror.ai office isn't a logo. It's not a mission statement carved in wood or a bold quote about truth. It's a simple oak frame hanging at eye level, directly across from the door. Inside it, printed on matte gray paper, are 3 lines: the transparency policy. We show where video has been changed. We do not guess. We detect. No slogans, no founders' names, just that. We launched the public version of Mirror.ai on a bright Tuesday morning with no fanfare, no keynote, no stream, just a clean website. You upload a video. The system runs 4 checks. 1. Compression analysis, ELA, error level. Analysis, explained simply, checks how evenly a video's parts have been saved. Real footage compresses smoothly. Edited footage creates hotspots, like patches of wet paint. We highlight those areas in color. 2. Color profile, match. Every video tool leaves behind a color recipe, like seasoning in a dish. We compare that recipe to known editing tools. If a company's internal color code appears in a public video, we flag it. 3. Reflection and light consistency. This is our physics test. Light behaves a certain way, reflections in mirrors, sunglasses, window glass. Fake videos often forget how real-world light should bounce. Our tool checks whether reflections match what should be there. 4. Upload metadata. Metadata is a video's invisible label, showing who uploaded it, when, and from what kind of device. While this can be stripped or spoofed, most people don't bother. We highlight whatever's left: device IDs, timestamps, locations. Each scan ends with a manipulation index, not a judgment, just a scale from 0 to 5 showing how many flags were raised. At 0, the video's clean. At 5, every layer has anomalies. The launch came with a short tutorial video. No music, no dramatic voiceover. Just me, speaking plainly. The screen showed the original fake video of me side by side with the clean version. Then with Mirror.ai's overlay lit up, red patches from compression mismatches. Nova's signature color code where it didn't belong. A screen reflection that was empty in the fake, present in the original. Upload data showing the file first touched Nova's servers at 2:17 a.m. from a device tied to C-Read. We didn't say Carolyn's name. We didn't have to. The last screen said, "Truth isn't loud, it's precise." Then, Mirror.ai high public beta now. Open within hours, we had 40,000 users. Not journalists, not techies, regular people. High school students uploading TikToks flagged in group chats. Small-town lawyers scanning blurry security footage. Grandparents checking forwarded videos from group messages with subject lines like, "Can you believe this?" We got messages from nurses, factory workers, single dads. Finally, something to make sense of what we see. Not everyone liked it. Several influencers sent legal threats, claiming we'd violated their creative license by showing their filters and edits. We didn't respond publicly. We simply released an update that added a filter detector mode. That version, even more popular. Meanwhile, the grant we'd applied for, quietly, weeks ago, came through. Backed by a coalition of educational nonprofits, it funded a program called Verify Before You Share. We turned it into posters, school modules, even a sticker pack with catchphrases like, "Check the light," "Metadata matters," "Think before you link." The community center offered us permanent space. Not for us, for workshops, led by local volunteers trained to use Mirror.ai in daily life. Leah said, "We just open the door. They do the rest." Nora visited one afternoon to drop off printed transcripts of her coverage. "I've been doing this for 15 years, she told me, but this was the first time I saw tech teach instead of sell. We placed her right up in the lobby below the frame. The transparency policy, the backbone of all of it. On the last day of the quarter, I sat alone in the main room. No press, no deadline. I just stared at the screen showing live user scans pinging from around the world, a steady rhythm of people choosing to check instead of assume. I thought about Daniel, about the email I'd archived, about how easy it would be to reply now that everything was clear. But clarity wasn't a reward for surviving. It was a responsibility. And some truths don't need revisiting, only remembering. I closed my laptop and walked to the window. The glass caught my reflection, plain, full, real. No edits, no filter, just me. They tried to frame the lie. We framed the truth.